BBC Radio Sheffield News at 8. South Yorkshire Police say they're facing a growing problem of young teenagers using fake ID cards to try to get into pubs and clubs. Darren Starkey from South Yorkshire Police, who was with us earlier at Radio Sheffield this morning, he says they've seized hundreds of these fake ID cards.
So far this year, we've seized over 560. You're looking at people in the sort of mid-teens, probably around about 14, 15, that are getting identifications. Those are then being falsified with dates of births and photographs. And obviously the door staff are then sort of challenging those people and recognising that they're not the true identification documents.
Well, this is Harris, who's from the charity Sheffield Futures. He says it's easy for somebody underage to get a fake ID card.
A lot of young people know people that are older than them that look quite similar to them, that are like 18, 19, so what they do is buy their ID off them, and what the young person does is they say that they've lost their ID, so they get a new ID and they sell it, so they're making money as well. They're making profit at the same time.
Fake IDs, there are consequences.
What happens is the staff will seize those from the person. They will then issue them with some paperwork, and then we've got a new process where it goes through safeguarding to look at the issues with those, and then we sort of pick up anything in terms of the person if they've knowingly sort of passed that identification on to be misused. So really prosecutions are pretty much a last resort. We try and look at ways of sort of intervening with the young person and getting them to realise the consequences of that, and then obviously the person whose identification it is, and dealing with those if they choose to contest it.
I'm guessing that giving somebody your driving licence and then telling DVLA that you've lost it is actually quite a serious offence.
Well, it's fraud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the consequences for that are very serious, aren't they?
Well, potentially you're looking at getting a criminal record if you've not got one before.
There will be some people listening to this thinking, oh, come on. You know, didn't we all do it kind of thing? But there is a marked difference between taking your 17-year-old lad into the local pub and maybe sneaking a Swift half, which I know you wouldn't say we can do anyway, but, you know, there's a difference to that and going out clubbing on a Friday night, isn't there? There
is. We're looking at it from a safeguarding issue, and we've got some really good working relationships with safeguarding children, and that's the whole idea behind it. Young people in the city centres on a weekend where there's lots of alcohol, they're at risk of becoming victims of quite serious crimes if that's the case, as well as the sort of health implications of consuming alcohol at such an early age.
That was me there. A group of teenagers have been so concerned about the problem escalating that they've decided to make a video about the issue, which is going to be sent out to all the schools across Sheffield. Joining me in the studio are Jess and Indy, they're young advisors at Sheffield Futures, and Sarah Stevens is with us here too. First of all, Sarah, tell us what your involvement's been.
I lead a team of young advisors who are all aged 16 to 19 years old. They're trained up as young consultants within Sheffield, and they work with services and organisations to improve things for growing up in Sheffield and surrounding areas.
Now, Jess, you're 17, so you could benefit from some of this fake ID from time to time, I'm guessing. Have you know, the people... I can't get words mixed up. Have you ever been offered one?
Yeah, a couple of times I've been offered one, and a lot of my friends have, and a lot of my friends who are 17, 16 are actually going downtown with fake IDs, and it is quite a big problem.
And what do you think the actual problem is?
The problem is that there's like, if say a young girl goes downtown, she's very vulnerable. A lot of men might think that she's older than what she is, and that could cause problems. And you've got the issue of getting a criminal record from actually using a fake ID as well.
Do you think people realise what the problems are?
I don't think many people actually know what the problems and the consequences are of using a fake identification. I think what it more is like, if you can get caught with it, you'll have it took off you, and the person that lent you will have it took off you. I don't think that people understand that you can get a criminal record, and that can affect jobs and going abroad. So I think people need to be more aware of what the consequences are of using fake identification. And
of course, the consequences of being allowed in somewhere. We heard this morning of kids 13 and 14 in the nightclubs with fake ID. Now, you don't want a 13-year-old girl in a nightclub, do you?
Not at all. I mean, it's extremely, vulnerable position that they put themselves in, and also, the film that we did with the Safeguarding Board and the local theatre company highlights that. The young girl in our film, who's played by Jess, actually gets kicked out of the club. All the friends are still inside. She's left then in a strange town because she's from Leeds, so she's left in Sheffield, no friends, nowhere getting home, nowhere to stay. That you don't want to even imagine what could happen to that young person.
And that's not a made-up story, is it? I mean, that's happened to people I know, he said, pointing at himself. That can happen to people, can't it? How was making the video?
It were really good. It were very tiring, because obviously we'd never been in that, film environment, but it were really good to find out how actually filming works, as well as finding out all about the fake ID, because we did all the scenarios, all practices. We made up the script ourselves, and we worked closely, obviously, with the Safeguarding Board and Point Blank to do the film, and it was just a really, really good experience for everyone on our team.
And what do you want to happen? What do you want the film to do, Andy?
I want it to be like to go out to schools and stuff like that to like show the young people aged 16, 17 that it's not alright to go out and get drunk, being underage, being in a nightclub. To get the message out to like parents, to people like that, so they understand what the risks are of young people going into nightclubs underage.
I suppose the trouble is that going out into a nightclub is fun. Isn't it? I mean, a lot of people might say this is just a bit spoil sportish.
Yeah, it is fun to go out and have a laugh with your friends and that, but I think the fact of the matter is, if you do get caught, you are in serious trouble, and people need to understand that you can go out, you can have a laugh, and we don't want to be like spoiling people's fun. We just don't want like we've already mentioned, like young girls aged 13, 14, 15 going into nightclubs and being picked up by older men and to get into trouble with police and stuff like that, because it's just not good for them.
Tell us about the young advisors then, Sarah. Tell us about the role that they've got.
They're trained as young consultants. They work all over Sheffield. So previous to this, they did some work on a big poster what's gone out to schools. They've done lots of work with the Corner in Sheffield, various organisations, the local education board. So they look at any issue, what a service or organisation in Sheffield might be having, and then work with them. Young people are more likely to tell other young people what's actually going on than an adult. So we get the real story, and what these guys do, they don't just do boring questionnaire consultations, they do real creative consultations, and that informs our work at Sheffield Futures and also our partner organisations such as the City Council, etc., to actually target work where it's really needed.
I think it's a great idea. We ought to hear more of it, really.
Absolutely.
I'm sure we can learn a lot, yeah.
Yeah, they're a fantastic team and an award-winning team as well.
There you go. Get in the plug at the end.
Yeah.
Thanks very much indeed for coming in, all three of you. That's Sarah Stevens there from Sheffield Futures, and of course Jess and Indy. Thanks for coming in.